my night shift at the Iron Valor War Museum. I was desperate for a job, not just any job either. I needed something that paid enough to keep my head above the rising tide of bills and overdue rent notices that were starting to feel less like paper and more like headstones. So, when I saw an online ad for a nocturnal asset protection specialist at the Iron Valor War Museum, I pounced. To be blunt, the pay was suspiciously good for what looked like a simple night guard gig. The place is this huge, sprawling granite fortress downtown, packed with artifacts from centuries of human conflict. It's a solemn, quiet place, even when it's crawling with school groups. At night, I figured it would just be more of the same, more quiet. I didn't realize what a huge mistake I'd made until my first official shift. My supervisor, Arthur, met me at the employee entrance. His face was a roadmap of exhaustion. The guy looked like he hadn't had a full night's sleep since the Cold War. He walked me through the basics. A surprisingly modern security console showing silent grayscale feeds of all the halls. He showed me the logbook, emergency contacts, fire extinguishers. All the boring stuff you'd expect. Then, just as he was about to leave me to my lonely watch, he stopped and pulled a dog-eared laminated sheet of paper from his jacket. He slid it across the console. "This is the most important part of the job, kid," he said, his voice a low, gravelly whisper. "I'm not gonna lie to you, things get strange here after we lock the doors. You follow these rules. To the letter. No questions, no bright ideas." He tapped the paper with a gnarled finger. "Most of these are for your safety. The rest are for theirs." Before I could even ask who theirs was, he was gone, the heavy staff door sighing shut behind him. I was alone in the echoing silence of the main rotunda. I picked up the list. The header, in a stark, blocky font, read, "Rules for Night Watch, Iron Valor War Museum." And then, the rules began. When your shift starts at 2200, do a full perimeter walk. Make sure all exhibit hall doors are closed. You'll notice the main rotunda feels colder than the rest of the museum. This is normal. Don't touch the thermostat. The chill isn't from the HVAC. The Great War exhibit has a full-scale trench replica. Between 2300 and midnight, you might hear coughing. Do not go looking for the source. The damp smell isn't a leak. If you hear boots on the duckboards, go to the WW2 hall immediately and don't go back to the trench for at least an hour. The mannequins in the WWII European Theater Hall are wearing authentic service-worn uniforms. We count every single one at closing. If you see a mannequin has moved, don't panic. Just stand in front of it, give a slow, respectful nod, and say clearly, "Rest easy, soldier." Then walk away and don't look back. Whatever you do, don't shine your flashlight right in their faces. They don't like that. In the Pacific Theater exhibit, there's a case of gas masks. If you see condensation fogging up the inside of the glass lenses like someone's breathing in there, look away and leave. Don't tap on the glass. He hates being watched. The Vietnam War diorama is multisensory. During the day, we use speakers and scent machines. At night, those are off. If you smell damp earth and rot, or hear a distant thump-thump of helicopter rotors, it's critical that you stay out of the exhibit. Those sounds aren't on a loop. The Cold War exhibit ends at a replica of a Soviet nuclear bunker, sealed with a heavy steel door and a mag lock. This door has to stay locked. This is the single most important rule. There's nothing in there but a table, a chair, and an old radio. If you find the door unlocked or open, don't try to close it. Don't look inside. Get on your radio immediately, say code armistice, and go to the center of the main rotunda. Stand right under the big flag and don't move until your shift is over. Ignore any sounds you hear. There's a display case near the exit with unmailed letters from soldiers. You might hear whispering when you pass. It might even sound like your name. It's not. Don't stop to listen. Their words aren't for you. At exactly 1:13, you might hear marching coming from the hall of ancient warfare. Don't go looking for it. The sound will fade. If it doesn't, start cleaning the display cases. Make just enough noise to show you're working and not eavesdropping. You are the only living person on duty at night. If you see another security guard, especially in the pre-1945 exhibits, don't go near them. Don't talk to them. Just write down their location and direction in the logbook. We need to know where they wander. Watch out for a WWI soldier whose face is always in shadow, no matter how bright the light is. We call him the faceless soldier. Seeing him is a very bad sign. If things get bad and you feel you're in real danger, find the nearest fire alarm. Don't pull it. Next to it is a small box with a brass key inside. Break the glass and take the key. It doesn't unlock anything, but holding it lets them know you're just a guest who's overstayed their welcome. It might buy you some time. Never run unless a rule says to. They see running as a threat or a game. You don't want to play their games. Your shift ends at 6 o'clock. Before clocking out, check the display of old guard uniforms in the lobby. Make sure the empty mannequin is still empty. If it's not, do not clock out. Arthur will know. I had to read the list twice. A nervous laugh escaped my lips. It had to be a prank. Some kind of hazing for the new guy. Code Armistice? The Faceless Soldier? Sounded like a bad horror movie. Arthur was probably watching me on a monitor right now, having a good laugh. Fine, I'd play along. I folded the list, stuck it in my back pocket, and started my first patrol. For the first hour, the job was exactly what I'd expected. Boring. The silence in the museum was immense, a heavy blanket that muffled my own footsteps on the polished marble. I walked the perimeter, checking the heavy doors to each exhibit. All locked. I noted it in the logbook. 2215 perimeter secure. The main rotunda, a vast domed space where flags from dozens of nations hung like sleeping bats, did feel colder. I actually shivered, my breath fogging. Rule number 1. Just a draft, I told myself. A big old building like this is full of them. I moved on. The clock ticked past 2300 as I neared the Great War exhibit. The air here felt different. Heavy. It carried a damp, earthy smell, like a cellar that hadn't been opened in 100 years. I remembered rule number 2 and scoffed. Someone just left a scent machine on by mistake. That's all. I peered into the dark exhibit. Emergency lights cast long, twisted shadows across a painstakingly recreated trench. Muddy walls, sandbags, barbed wire. Mannequins in drab wool uniforms stood in frozen poses of misery. Then I heard it. A soft, wet cough. It was faint, but it was there. It came from deep inside the trench. I froze, the hair on my arms standing up. My rational brain was screaming at me. It's a pipe. It's the building settling, it's the wind. But it sounded so human. So sick. I held my breath, listening. Silence. I was about to laugh it off when I heard another sound. The soft, squelching suck of a boot pulling free from thick mud. Rule number 2 slammed into my brain. If you hear the sound of boots, proceed immediately to the WW2 hall. My heart hammered my ribs. This was stupid. It was a prank. But my feet were already moving, carrying me away from the trench with a speed that felt an awful lot like fear. I didn't run, rule number 11, but I walked faster than I had all night. I stepped into the WW2 hall, the air blessedly clean and dry. My pulse was a drum solo in my ears. I took a few deep breaths, leaning against a wall, feeling like a total moron for letting a weird noise and a stupid list get to me. Still, I stayed put for a while, pretending to check my phone, acting like I wasn't completely rattled. After 20 minutes of trying to convince myself I wasn't losing it, I started my patrol again. The hall was huge, filled with tanks, jeeps, and cases of metals. The main attraction was a central diorama showing the European theater, populated by dozens of mannequins in full battle gear. I did a slow walk around the platform, my flashlight beam sweeping across the frozen figures. Everything looked the same as it had on my first pass. Then my light landed on a U.S. Army medic kneeling over a wounded soldier. I stopped. I could have sworn he was facing the other way before. His head was now angled slightly toward the walkway, toward me. My blood ran cold. No, it was my imagination, that's all. I was just spooked from the trench noise. But the doubt was there. I walked a full circle around the display, and when I came back, I was certain. Another mannequin, a German officer with binoculars, wasn't looking at the fake battlefield anymore. He was pointed toward the hall's exit. Rule number 3. If you find a mannequin is not in the exact position, offer a slow, respectful nod and say clearly, "Rest easy, soldier." My throat was bone dry. I felt like a complete idiot, standing in a dark, empty museum about to talk to a dummy. But the memory of that wet cough and the look on Arthur's face, it made me do it. I stopped in front of the medic. I gave a slow, deliberate nod. "Rest easy, soldier," I whispered. My own voice sounded thin and stupid in the huge hall. I did the same for the German officer. Then, following the rule, I turned and walked away, forcing myself not to look back, every nerve ending screaming that something was watching me go. I practically bolted for the Pacific Theater exhibit, just needing a change of scene. The displays here were different. Dense jungle dioramas, wrecked planes, and artifacts from the island-hopping campaigns. My eyes landed on a brightly lit case against the far wall. Inside, on stark white stands, were about a dozen different gas masks. As I got closer, I saw it. One of them, a gray American M5, was wrong. The inside of its glass lenses were clouded with a milky condensation, exactly like someone had just breathed into it. Rule number 4. If you notice condensation, avert your eyes and walk away. I just stared, horrified. As I watched, a tiny drop of water trickled down the inside of the left lens. My stomach flipped. I wasn't just spooked anymore. I was terrified. This wasn't a prank. The cold, the cough, the moving mannequins, and now this. This was real. I tore my eyes away and walked stiffly out of the hall, my heart pounding. The next hour was a paranoid blur. I avoided the WWI and WW2 exhibits completely. I gave the case of whispering letters a wide berth, though I swear I heard a soft, "ah," the first letter of my name, as I hurried past. At exactly 1:13 a.m., a faint rhythmic pounding started up from the other side of the museum. The Hall of Ancient Warfare. Marching. Rule number 8. I grabbed a cleaning cloth and started frantically wiping down a display case of muskets, my hands shaking so badly I was just smearing the glass. I focused on the squeaking noise, trying to block out the steady tramp. 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 Of ghostly feet. It finally faded after an eternity. I was huddled in the security office, staring at the monitors, just wanting the night to end, when I saw him. On camera 7, a figure was walking slowly down the hallway of the pre-1945 exhibits. It was a security guard, but the uniform was old and baggy, and his face, it was just a smudge of shadow. Even when he passed right under a ceiling light, his features were a complete, unnatural void. The Faceless Soldier. Rule number 9. Seeing him is a very bad sign. Panic surged through me. I grabbed the logbook, my pen slick with sweat, and scribbled, 2:47. Sighting in Hall C, unidentified guard, WWI uniform. Face obscured, walking west. Why do they need to know where they wander? What were they looking for? Before I could think about it, a sound ripped through the silence. Not a whisper or a footstep. It was a loud metallic bang, followed by the grating screech of steel. It came from the West Wing, from the Cold War exhibit. My blood turned to ice. Rule number 6. The most important rule. The bunker must remain locked. If you find this door unlocked or ajar, I didn't want to go. Every part of me screamed to stay in the office and hide under the desk until 6 a.m. But the rules. Arthur's dead serious expression. Something told me ignoring this was the worst thing I could possibly do. My legs felt like lead as I pushed out of the chair and headed toward the West Wing. The Cold War exhibit was stark and gray. At the very end of the hall was the bunker. It was a monstrous slab of steel built into the wall, with a large wheel in the center and a heavy maglock next to it that glowed with a small green light. Except the light was off, and the heavy steel door was open. Just a crack, a vertical sliver of absolute, suffocating blackness. The maglock was shattered, wires hanging out. The doorframe around it bent like it had been forced open from the inside. I stopped dead about 20 feet away. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could see was that sliver of darkness. My radio felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Do not attempt to close it. Do not look inside. Use your radio, state code armistice, and retreat. As my trembling hand reached for the radio, a sound came from inside the bunker. A voice. It was low and raspy, speaking in a language I didn't know. Russian, maybe? It didn't sound angry or mean. It sounded lost, like someone who had been alone in the dark for a very, very long time. The voice said something, and then, in heavily accented, broken English, it called out, "Hello? Is someone there? Please. I am stuck." My heart just broke. It was a person, trapped, maybe another guard. The rules, the fear, it all just evaporated. This was a person who needed help. I took a step forward, then another. I raised my flashlight, cutting a beam into that oppressive darkness. I saw a simple metal table. A chair. On the table, an old shortwave radio, its tubes glowing faintly. But no one was there. "I see your light," the voice whispered. But it wasn't coming from the bunker anymore. It was coming from right beside my ear. A wave of icy dread so powerful it felt like a physical punch washed over me. I finally got it. The rule wasn't to keep me out. It was to keep him in. I couldn't even scream. I fumbled for my radio, my fingers thick and useless. I mashed the transmit button. "Code. Code armistice," I choked out. And then I ran. I broke rule number 11, and I didn't care. I sprinted out of that hall, my boots slapping against the marble. Behind me, I heard the bunker door swing fully open with a deafening groan. And then all hell broke loose. From the WWI exhibit, a whistle shrieked, followed by the crump of artillery and shouting in German. From the WW2 hall, a machine gun nest opened up. A tank engine roared to life. From the Pacific Theater, I heard screams and the roar of fire. The air filled with the smell of gunpowder. The entire museum, every war, every ghost was waking up at once. Alarms I didn't even know existed started blaring, a symphony of sirens and bells from different eras. I burst into the main rotunda, my lungs on fire, and didn't stop until I was directly under the massive American flag hanging from the ceiling. I skidded to a halt, heaving. Stand directly under the large flag. And do not move. I stood there shaking as the sounds of a dozen wars raged around me. I heard gunfire, splintering wood, shattering glass. A man screamed in agony from the Vietnam exhibit. I heard the marching again, a whole phantom army on the move. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for dawn. The chill in the rotunda was gone, replaced by a furnace-like heat. The air was thick with the ghosts of battle. I just stood my ground, frozen there by pure terror. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Just as I felt my mind starting to crack, it stopped. All of it. 1 second, it was a cacophony of war. The next, dead silence. A silence deeper than anything I'd ever known. Slowly, I opened my eyes. Through the high-arched windows, the first pale gray light of dawn was trickling in. It was 6 a.m. The staff door opened and Arthur walked in. He looked at me, then at the silent halls, then back at me. No surprise on his face, just that bone-deep weariness. He didn't ask what happened. "You're alive," he said. It wasn't a question. "I quit," I rasped. He just nodded. "Figured, go home, kid, get some sleep." I didn't need to be told twice. I walked on autopilot toward the exit, my mind a wasteland. As I pushed open the front doors, I glanced back one last time. Across the lobby was a display of old security guard uniforms. And on a mannequin that I swear had been empty last night, there was a new addition. A modern guard's uniform, identical to mine. The name tag was blank. I stared at it for a second, a final horrifying chill running down my spine, before I turned and walked out into the sunrise, leaving the Iron Valor War Museum behind for good.